President Trump is pissed. He wants Tim Walz in jail. He wants these Somalians booted from the country. They're stealing our money. Now you've got Obama's Attorney General, Eric Holder, saying, once we get power, it's time to go buck wild. To help me go through all this, I have Grant Stinchfield. Grant, thank you so much for joining me again.
Stephen, it's great to see you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I'm so happy to be with you today.
Oh, we did. Thank you. So this first story I want to jump in on. President Trump has once again called on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to nuke the filibuster. He posted over on Truth Social, Eric Holder, Barack Obama's former Attorney General, saying that if they take back the government in 2028, that they've got to remake the government. We live in a broken system. He talks about how it's necessary to pack the Supreme Court. Let me show this to you and the audience, and then we'll react to it together.
I think the Supreme Court is a broken institution. We cannot leave in place without a discussion, at least, and I think without substantive reforms being put in place, this Supreme Court as it is presently constituted. If there is a Democratic trifecta in 2028, Supreme Court reform is something that has to be considered. Potentially expanding the court is something I think that also should be considered.
Okay, so Trump goes off. This Obama sycophant is letting us know they are going to nuke the filibuster. They're going to do what Republicans don't have the spine to do, and we will never win elections again. They want to pack the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts on the former highest attorney general in the land saying the country's broken and we need to pack the Supreme Court?
Look, he is one of the orchestrators of what was an attempted coup of America. And really after call it the second election of President Trump that he won, but didn't get into office. Eric Holder was right there. He was right there for all of it after going after conservatives. So this makes total sense. It's not a surprise to me whatsoever. And Stephen, I'll tell you this. I really thought long and hard about this idea of throwing out the filibuster. In fact, when President Trump first floated the idea, I did something that I can't remember the last time I've done as a talk show host. And that was, give me a couple days. I told my viewers, I said, I got to really think about this. I can't just fly off the seat of my pants and come up with a decision on throwing out the filibuster because it has such huge ramifications if we do it. I said, so give me a couple days. And over those couple of days, here's what I came to the conclusion of. One, President Trump has always been right. I can't remember a time he's been wrong. And so he's done things, including things I've disagreed with, that he's turned out to be right. Tariffs is a great example of that. So I put great faith in President Trump and his decision-making on this. Two, I looked at the Senate and I said, what is the assessment of the United States Senate now and the makeup? Will Chuck Schumer, who I believe Thune, Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Nancy, but they were all kind of that establishment crowd. Schumer might not throw out the filibuster. But will he be the guy in charge if, God forbid, the Democrats take back the Senate? And my conclusion was no. The Democrats have moved so far to the left. They have radical factions of this party that has totally taken it over. So I don't think Schumer would be in charge. And I think they would throw out the filibuster in a heartbeat. So if you come to the conclusion that, say, you've got a 75% chance, and it's probably greater than that the Democrats will throw out the filibuster when they get into office, then you say, well, why wouldn't we as Republicans do it? If they are, we might as well get the benefit of it, try to put some firewalls in place, try to get the country back on track as much as possible, and prove to the American people when you're getting it back on track, why not to elect them back into office so they don't throw out the filibuster because they're not in charge and elections have consequences. Then so be it. And lastly, I'll say this, Stephen, I played sports all the way through college. I played a little even Division III football, but no big deal. But my mentality is that of winners and losers. Elections have consequences. So you know what? We've got to fight harder to win. And if we lose, then we suffer the consequences of that. So let's not lose. Let's make this to be a great motivator to go out and win. And then if we lose, well, we come back and fight harder. But this is what elections are all about. And so Let's go out there and win. Let's never let them have power again. Let's throw out the filibuster and let's get America back on track like President Trump wants us to. And I'll do everything in my power to help him do it.
So I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is a really big deal. Like this, we've operated under this tradition of the Senate kind of being the brakes and the House being the gas. But President Trump reminded me and MAGA of a couple of things. He said, number one, they've already announced that this is what they're going to do. And two, we have a track record under Joe Biden. The only reason that they didn't nuke the filibuster was Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who they immediately put out to pasture. And so once he said that, I was like, okay, wait a minute. He's so right. They're absolutely plotting. They're announcing, they're doing interviews on the left media that this is what they're going to do. And they already tried to do it. The second thing that convinced me was I was like, wait a minute. Trump has all these great ideas, right? But he can't get them done. And the Senate is the number one hurdle. So how are we even supposed to show that MAGA and Make America Great is a great way to do things if you can't get anything done? Yeah. And so after I came to those conclusions, it was similar to you. I told my audience, I think it's time to nuke the filibuster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's surprising that we get to a point where we've got to come to that because, in many respects, the filibuster is a good idea. It keeps everybody in check. But the problem is everybody's not going to be kept in check. And so why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage? And boy, Stephen, what a great point you raise about Sinema and Joe Manchin. When I say that the party has moved so far radical left, those were the first two they got rid of. And believe me, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are no moderates. Okay. They really aren't. I mean, they come off because they're being held up against these radical Democrats, but they're not really moderates. They're still leftist liberals. They were thrown out. And so any last bastion of holding the line in the Democrat Party for that is gone. And I think you will see some radical, God forbid, AOC wins her Senate race in New York against Chuck Schumer. And then she becomes the leader. Could you imagine AOC the leader of the Senate? You don't think they'll throw out the filibuster as quick as you can count to three? Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. President Trump held a cabinet meeting. In that meeting, Homeland Security Secretary Kristie Noem urged President Trump to stop allowing the United States to be the dumping grounds for unvetted armies of foreign nationals who drain public resources. Literally, they come here, they live off of the taxpayer. The taxpayer doesn't even get the benefit. Well, now you've got liberals on the left crying tears because Kristie Noem said that the people flooding our country are killers and leeches. I mean, what else would you call them? You've got people with a criminal past for violating women, trafficking children, pushing drugs that kill people, and then they're literally leeching off of the hardworking back of the American taxpayer. And now they're out there because she was name-calling immigrants. Yeah. Your thoughts on these pathetic people?
Look, they're so concerned about the feelings of illegal aliens, many of them who are causing great damage to America and taking American lives. Stop being so concerned with the feelings of illegal aliens and start being concerned with the lives and safety and security of Americans. That's my story to them. You have senators like Tim Kaine and Mark Kelly, one of the seditious six. All of these people want to come to the rescue of not just illegal aliens that want to come here, and there are some that just want to make a better life for them because their home country is a hellhole. Okay, I understand that, but many of them are causing damage. They want to defend narco traffickers. They want to defend child rapists, drug traffickers, murderers, and I can't by the help of me to think why we've got 2 dead National Guards people now, or 1 dead, 1 hopefully recovers, but 2 shot, 1 dead. We've got this Fort Worth Afghan national threatened to blow up a building in Fort Worth on TikTok. I mean, what more do they want from us? They want us all dead, and yet they're still wishing they go back to the day where J6ers were their big threat to America, when all J6ers wanted was a free place to move about the country freely and live their lives without government intrusion. And yet you have these illegal aliens that are literally wreaking havoc on us. And they're being used as pawns, by the way, by China, pushing fentanyl into this country that's also killing American citizens. Thank God for President Trump. You know, Kristie Noem says we've got to stop the invasion. President Trump's already doing it. He doesn't need Kristie Noem to tell him to stop it. He's already doing it. I think it's his number one priority right now.
Yeah, I think it's probably the greatest thing he's done to date is just shutting down the border. And now they've got to start moving these people out. But I'm with you. Like, I just don't understand how you defend criminals more than your constituents. The only thing I can think of is they just need a new voter base. Yeah. So like you give the big middle finger, whoever wants to stay around while we abuse them, we'll take your vote. But we need a whole new group of people to keep us in power down the road.
I think they've walled themselves off in Washington for so long that they have not seen the shift in their own party base. And when I say the shift in party base, I say go into every inner city hood in America. Take Chicago as an example. At Real America's Voice, you know, where I have a show at 7 o'clock every night, we've got guys like Ben Berkwam who go into these neighborhoods and they talk to people of all races, colors, ethnic backgrounds. And they all are so grateful that President Trump is cleaning up the criminals that roam the streets on a daily basis, from gangbangers who were born in America to the gangbangers that weren't. They just want safe streets. You got grandmothers everywhere. And Tim Kaine and the other senators and all of these leftists that just toast their scotches in Washington, they don't realize that people are grateful for the help that President Trump is sending them.
Yeah. Let me switch gears with you. President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have launched a criminal investigation into the Minnesota Somalian fraud, where they are literally stealing taxpayer money with the knowledge of Tim Walz in order to get votes. But now we're finding out nearly $1 billion of stolen money has gone back to terrorists. Let me play this clip from Fox News, and then we'll react to it together.
Elections. Speaking of Treasury, U.S. Treasury, under the leadership of Scott Bessent, they're investigating where the tax dollars in Minnesota are going. Can you imagine living in Minnesota? You work really hard, and you find out a portion of your paycheck is going to pay for terrorism. They're investigating whether or not tax dollars are being funneled into Somalia. You know, they have a big Somalian population in Minnesota. If they're being sent to Somalia for Al-Shabaab, which is an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group. It all started because these two guys that work for the Manhattan Institute started an investigation. They wanted to find out where the tax dollars from Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services program, called Feeding Our Future, and some other organizations, they uncovered fraud in this bombshell report. And some of the money, they say, is going to this terrorism organization.
So what does Tim Walz do? Goes after the whistleblowers.
Unbelievable.
So he is acting like a Mr. Tough Guy on Sunday. We'll do an investigation, put it in jail. Nobody's in jail. You haven't done any investigation. And they say most of all, it is a laziness, feeling on some level maybe, well, these minority organizations and these minority groups need money anyway. Well, this is pandemic money, and it's the money you just spoke of. In fact, here's what Secretary of Treasury Bessent actually said. If we can go to what he's saying, I'm going to do an investigation. At my direction, Treasury is investigating allegations that under the feckless mismanagement of Biden and Governor Tim Walz, hardworking Minnesotans' tax dollars may have been diverted to Al-Shabaab, thanks to the leadership. And he goes on to say the investigation really is just beginning.
All right. I don't live in Minnesota, but you tell me that after working 80 hours a week and paying the government that they're sending my money to terrorists? I'm furious. Your thoughts on this? Are you ready to feel great every day? I love kimchi and I take it daily. Since starting, my energy is up, my gut feels healthier, I feel genuinely happy. It's amazing what a balanced microbiome can do. My gut got wrecked after COVID and my brain was foggy. I can tell such a difference after improving my gut health. Kimchi One is packed with 900 strains of beneficial bacteria, more than most probiotics, proven in scientific studies to support overall gut health. According to PubMed, a healthy gut is crucial for your immune system, digestion, mood, and even energy levels. Let me share some of the top reasons I trust Kimchi One. Enhanced digestion, increased energy, immune system support, better nutrient absorption, happier mood, and healthy weight management. Want to experience the same? Follow the link below for 25% off Kimchi 1 or snap the QR code. Or call my friends at Brightcore right now to get up to 50% off with free shipping. That's right. Call 888-908-4425 for up to 50% off plus free shipping. Your gut and body will thank you.
Let me give you an example of what I believe went down in Minnesota. And this is why the saying, when you go woke, you go broke, is a prime example of what's happening in Minnesota. I am convinced that there were state auditors that saw this going on, going back to 2021 and probably before. And because they didn't want to come off as looking like they were racist, going after the Somali community, they let this stuff fester right underneath their noses, and they were too afraid to call it out because it was Somalis and they need the votes. And Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota who leads this whole crew there of 80,000 Somalis, it was wokeness that let it fester. And then sending this money to terror groups, there's a network of nonprofits that are now connected to money going overseas to Somalia. She mentioned that housing authority, the Stabilization Housing Authority. Stephen, let me give you an example. In 2021, the budget was $2.1 million, but that year they spent $21 million, 10 times more than what they were supposed to be spending. The next year in 2022, it doubles to $42 million. The next year it goes to $76 million. The next year, $106 million. And in 2025, in the first 6 months, they've spent $61 million, which shows you they're on track to spend $120 million through that agency, which had a budget just 4 or 5 years ago of $2.1 million. Now, two things are at play here: the fraud and the money being funneled from the taxpayers to these networks to be sent back to Somalia, and the unfettered immigration in Minnesota saying, come on in, we'll pay for it. So the taxpayers fund more money to house all of these illegal aliens. No matter how you slice it, it's absolutely bad news. And Walz doesn't seem to think he's at fault when he's the commander-in-chief of Minnesota, and he's the one that should have been putting a stop to it, and he knew it was going on, and he did nothing.
Yeah, just disgusting behavior. I asked over on my YouTube if Tim Walz belongs in jail. Look at this. 316,000 people voted and said Trump is right. This guy deserves to be in jail. So like this isn't an 80-20 issue. This is a 96-4 issue that this guy, who was nearly vice president of the United States, was knowingly allowing a group of foreigners to steal money for terror. It's just, it's so despicable. It's so anti-American to me.
Can I just say something for your audience, Stephen? I want your audience to understand the 316,000 votes. That is craziness. The power of this platform of yours is so impressive. And I think much of that power, Stephen, comes from your loyal audience that's watching. You get 316,000 people voting on YouTube, which is not a safe haven for conservatives by any means. And you have that kind of power. I just want to applaud you, your audience, for being involved, and that kind of community is what saves America. I know that's totally off topic, but really, I think people at home need to know. You probably read those numbers off all the time. I don't know if they realize just how big those numbers are.
So I want to say this humbly. I don't want this to come across as bragging, but I'm in the top 1% of all of YouTube when it comes to community interaction. I'll show you another one, and then this will be my final question to you. But I asked, Trump says no more illegals from third world countries living off U.S. tax dollars. 96% of 570,000, over 500,000 people decided it was worth their time to support President Trump and say, I don't want to be the dumping ground anymore. I don't want my money going to anyone other than Americans. I'll pay taxes for Americans, but foreigners, foreign wars, these illegals, these criminals, these crooks, these murderers, not another dime. I completely agree with President Trump on that one.
All right. So I'm not surprised by your numbers based off of your audience and who gravitates to you, right? The numbers are huge. And I think you being in the top 1% really is a tribute to the audience and how engaged they are and you being able to engage them. But here's a really important number. 4% said no. So who are those 4%? They're not conservatives. So what does that amount to? 570. It's over 20,000 people. Is that right? 10% is 57. Just over 20,000 people said no. But who are those 20,000? Stephen, you've got liberals watching. Okay. That small amount, as a percentage, is a huge amount of numbers. You've got 20,000 liberals watching your program. What if just a small percentage of them learn something? What if a small percentage of those liberals say, you know what? Stephen's got a point here. Maybe Stinchfield's got a point here. Maybe another one of your guests has a point. And you start changing hearts and minds. I almost think that number of the 4% is the most important number in that poll because they're watching and engaging with you because they either ultra hate you or they're curious. And if they're curious, you can really do big things and change this country in such a great way, help make America great again, which is exactly what you're doing, buddy. I'm just honored to be here with you.
Yeah, no, I'm honored that you would come on. During the Biden administration, I would have people all the time like, I used to watch your channel because you were fair, right? Oh, I hate your new reporting. But I couldn't stand by and pretend that Biden was a good president. I couldn't stand by and let him, vote trillions of dollars out of the coffers. And over time, I saw people coming around saying, you've opened my eyes, like the stories you're reporting. The fact that I reported that Joe Biden signed off on leaving American astronauts to die in space because he didn't want Trump and Elon Musk to get credit. Stories like that, or the fact that Doug Emhoff slapped his ex-girlfriend so hard, witnesses say she spun around. No one wanted to cover the story. So yeah, I love bringing the truth to people. And I do believe that it's changed a lot. But you're right. Like if we can make a little bit of inroads on these people, I mean, this gets amplified over and over again, just putting out videos 7 days a week. So it's just amazing. Like I feel so honored to be able to cover the Trump administration and bring the truth to my audience. I know you do as well.
Yeah, I sure do. Let me just bring a little good news to you before you let me go here. So I was blessed to spend the last week at Mar-a-Lago, and I got to spend a lot of time with President Trump, including some alone time with President Trump. You are going to see this Trump is not with it. The mental capacity story come out more and more by the mainstream media that he has medical issues. I'm going to tell you something, Stephen. Again, I was blessed, and I'm not trying to drop names or where I was, but I got to witness this guy firsthand for 5 days straight, from Tuesday to Sunday. There is nothing wrong with this man. He is with it 100%. His mental acuity is strong as ever. He stays up late playing music loud for all of the people there that are celebrating with him. This guy has everything going for him and is strong as an ox. So do not believe it. And that being witnessed firsthand by me, take it to the bank.
I love that. I do think he's trolling people right now because it leaked that there was an MRI.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, I don't know what they did. I don't know what they did. They're all thinking it's an MRI of his brain, right?
Yeah.
It's probably going to come out being like his ankle or something.
I think it was. I think it was of his stomach or something like that. Like it came out and he didn't really know why they took it or something. But anyway, you're right. He's trolling, and he's the master troller. And you can't be a master troller unless your mental acuity is as sharp as a knife.
Yep, absolutely. Grant, thank you so much for giving me your valuable time. If people want to follow you or catch your show, where can I point them towards?
Well, for your YouTube audience, I would love a subscribe. Stinchfield Speaks. You could just type in Grant Stinchfield. It should come up. I've got real problems making any inroads on YouTube. But Rumble, Grant Stinchfield there. And then GrantStinchfield.com is the website where you can find me everywhere. And, of course, the Real America's Voice Show every night at 7 p.m. on RAV, Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms, and I hope to see you there. Stephen.
Okay, I'm going to put direct links so that it's even easier than searching you. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll have you on again in the future. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.